Hey guys, welcome to the Learn Feng Shui podcast, where you'll learn Feng Shui from a classical point of view, taking out the myth and superstition. So if you're interested in learning Feng Shui, Chinese astrology, all things Chinese metaphysics, as well as the superstitions and myths that connect it all, you'll enjoy learning Feng Shui with me. Hey guys, today we'll be uncovering the hidden power of brooms. We're going to look at the traditions from across the world and explore the magic behind the everyday tool and how it can be used to transform your space. Hey guys, welcome to Learn Feng Shui podcast. Another episode here. We're exploring the ancient art of Feng Shui, and today we're talking about how it intersects with the spiritual practices and traditions from around the world. I like to talk about that quite a bit, and today we're covering brooms. I did say brooms. So I'm Candace Berlanga, certified Feng Shui practitioner and red ribbon professional with the International Feng Shui Guild. Not just any broom, we're actually going to be talking about the symbolic power that they hold across the cultures and how they've been used throughout history to sweep away negativity, misfortune, and stagnant energy in regards to space clearing and ceremony. From sacred builders' rites of Western traditions to the cleansing customs of the Chinese New Year and even protective magic from Southern folk practices, brooms have been a tool for preparing our spaces for new beginnings. And with fall just around the corner, there's not really a better time to explore how these simple everyday objects can carry such profound purpose. So as the leaves begin to change and turn, we do prepare our homes for the cooler months ahead, and there's no better time to learn how to use these simple everyday objects that can help us clear out the old and make room for the new. You may be curious about how to incorporate these broom rituals into your own home, or maybe you're just interested in these global traditions. But either way, the episode should be pretty interesting. Let's sweep away the old and invite the new in and uncover this universal symbolism of brooms. Let's start first with a little bit of history and symbolic significance of brooms. In this first segment, we're going to explore the various cultures and uncover the deeper meanings behind their use. Starting off in Creating Places of Power by Nigel Pinnock. When I talked about builders' rights, I did talk about the tradition of cleansing an area with the broom. And that's actually what gave me the inspiration for today's episode. So there is a section, and it's a little bit more elaborate than I kind of covered on that episode. But really, I'll read this here. It says, sweeping is an act of transformation conducted ceremonially by a person dressed in a ritual disguise that emphasizes the role being performed and not the individual. In European culture, the broom is both revered and feared as a magical tool. The traditional English besom is made from 3 woods. The stick itself is made from ash wood, tied to it by osiers and birch twigs. Birch symbolizes purification and the driving out of uncleanliness, both physical and spiritual, from a place. Like all ceremonial tools, besoms are made also ceremonially. And so I discovered in doing this that besom is actually just an interchangeable word for broom. Sometimes it can be called that. It does say here that birch twigs are cut and they're attached to the besom, and they should never be cut after. And in England, East Anglian broom squires sometimes would make the brush end of besoms from heather trimmed at the end. The ling or heather is tied by spit bramble thongs, and during ceremonial use, the besom is bedecked with red and green ribbons that denote the performance of a special event. And the stick can be painted with a sunwise spiral of blue, red, green, or yellow to distinguish it from the mundane broomsticks. And again, these were used to clear an area before building would start. So that is one way they would do it. But ritual sweepings were also done by Mapal broom dancers, it says, and performed before certain ceremonies. Ceremonial new brooms would be made each year in Germany, and the new broom would be made at the beginning of the new year on the 12th night. It is made in the springtime in Switzerland when snow still lies in the ground and children are in the house while the adults leave to fetch a new broom, and they sing a ritual song in a circle. In old Bohemia, it was tradition to renew the broom at Easter. In Austria, on St. George's Day, around April 23rd, it is inauspicious in England to make a new broom of birch twigs or a green broom during the 12 days of Christmas or the merry month of May. And the April 23rd date, it really does remind me of, I'll bring you back to the April date of Bright and Clear, which is the Chinese tomb sweeping festival. It is kind of a mid-spring ceremony that is performed to clean the tombs. And so literally you go and clean tombs, and that's what Tomb Sweeping Day is. But there's a 15-day period called Clear and Bright, that Jechi cycle, that 15-day cycle, in which the ceremony can be performed. It is said that you can use the broom in certain ways also. In the British Isles, custom demands that the dust should always be swept inward, and if the sweeper sweeps outward, then you sweep away the luck of the house. And this, of course, reminds me of the Chinese traditions of keeping the trash inside a home while celebrating the Chinese New Year. It is customary to hold or not sweep, not clean. You hold onto your trash from the holidays, from the presents and everything. And then on a specific day of the Lunar New Year celebrations, you do take the trash out and clean. And it is said that they believe that this holds in your abundance, and so you don't want to do it before that. So same thing. There is certain dates too. It does say, as a customary right, that it's necessary to sweep on a certain day of the year, and the ritual sweeping is fundamentally important aspect of the ceremony to re-empower a place. In Derbyshire, central England, is tradition that one sweeps one's doorstep on the 1st of March, or the house will be infested with fleas. And in Lancashire, it's customary to sweep the old year out and the new year in. So the rite involves ceremonial sweepers, a ritual disguise. Men, women, and children with faces blackened or masked go from house to house in the New Year's between 10 and 12 and have a customary right to enter a house of whoever's door is unlocked. And without a word or song, the sweepers enter the house and dust the living room and hearth. I wouldn't mind someone breaking into my house and sweeping it. That'd be fine with me. When somebody passes away in Saxony, it was customary to not sweep the house that the whole time the body remained there. And once the coffin was taken to the cemetery, a besom was used to sweep the place where the coffin was and the threshold of any place where the wreaths may have fallen. After the house is cleansed with salt and swept thrice, then the besom was abandoned and not used again, and was left lying on a beam in a barn, an outhouse, or alternatively taken to a churchyard or field and left there. According to Nigel Pinnick, a place must be ceremonially cleansed before being used. This does come into play for agricultural customs as well as public traditions like parades. It says before mechanization of farm tools and stuff, that it was tradition in Ireland to sweep the threshing floor ceremonial with a heather broom before the threshers began their work in the goafstead. And so apparently, I had to look this up and I had a little bit of a hard time finding, because apparently this is the old Englishy type thing. But the thresher was actually the person that would knock the wheat off of the stalks. And so they would go thresh the stalks there. And then the threshing floor apparently was where they would separate all the chaff or whatever they call it there. And the goafstead was a division of the barn. This was an agricultural thing that they would do in the barn storage. And so they would cleanse the barn before they would actually start harvesting, which I think is pretty interesting. In Scottish tradition, guising sides have a broom man who first sweep the circle where the action then takes place. Apparently, guising means like a disguise, and I think this is in reference to like a Halloween. I suppose it would be where the Halloween traditions are kind of taking place. In the Plough Monday traditions of Cambridgeshire, Finns, it's customary to have a man with a broom of some kind to sweep away mud, snow, and ice and bad luck from dancing grounds where molly dancing or broom dancing is to be performed. It's also a badge of office of the bearer who carries the box to collect money from the spectators. In traditional street parades, the officials and participants are preceded by a ceremonial sweeper. In the city of London, it's customary that two wine porters clad in new aprons and carrying new brooms should sweep the street in front of the official vintners company and process to the Church of St. James for their annual service. In Central European traditions, in certain regions, they have a man with a broom who sweeps the way for the parade, and the path is thereby cleansed both physically and spiritual for the passage of the procession. I'm not really sure how this kind of relates to the parades here in the US because I feel like so much tradition has been lost, so much of a melting pot that a lot of these ancient traditions from our European ancestors have kind of been phased out. But one thing I can say is that behind the parade, where the horses are, there's always a street sweeper that will follow and clean up the horses' mess. I do think that's a nice little correlation to modern times and the parade. In some traditions, brooms are actually seen as a fertility symbol. The broom's a traditional symbol of fertility and is said to be sacred to the goddess and god. It is said to represent a balance of divine masculine energy, represented by the phallic handle, and the feminine energy, represented by the hairy bristles, and is thought to promote fertility of people or land. So, which I wonder why, if that's why they sweep the land sometimes before they would build. And in fact, it is said to be one of the reasons that witches may have been jumping around the broomsticks in their crops and fields was to promote a good harvest. I do have a little bit of tidbit on the witch stuff in just a second. In ancient Rome, wise women or midwives made special brooms meant to sweep away negative energies from a house where a baby had just been born. And these women were thought to be possible precursors to the idea of witches. More superstitions concerning brooms are going to be more along the lines of sweeping a person's feet. My mom always told me this in, I guess, the Hispanic Latino traditions. She would say that she always heard if somebody sweeps your feet, you're not going to get married. So I'm not sure. It's just supposed to be having bad luck. But my husband always heard that if somebody sweeps your feet, you're going to go to jail. Either way, it's supposed to be bad luck to have a broom swept across your feet. It does say, I found a little tidbit here. I'm going to link everything in the show notes. It says that if a person does sweep your feet, that you're supposed to spit on the broom or risk going to jail or having the bad luck. So I guess you got to spit on that broom. Either way, you risk misfortune if that happens. Even sweeping around or in front of a person has been known to cause a person bad luck. I think the idea is supposed to be that you're sweeping away their good or positive energy. Another tradition says you're not supposed to sweep out of your house on Fridays or on New Year's Day. You're not supposed to sweep under a sick person's bed or they'll have bad luck. If you move, you're not supposed to bring an old broom with you or you'll have bad luck. And you're not supposed to step over a broom, even if you have to cross over it to pick it up. Some people do place a broom across the door. It says, especially in Halloween, to keep witches from entering the house. Not sure how practical that is because you could just kick it out of the way, right? I don't know. But it's supposed to be bad luck to cross a broom. And apparently witches know that and it will stop them from entering a home. There are a lot of superstitions that abound in Chinese culture about brooms also. I just think it's interesting that across our cultures, even though we have many differences, so many things can be very similar. And I'll link this website in the show notes, but it is about Chinese customs and beliefs. And it says here that traditional Chinese culture holds that a broom is inhabited by a spirit, thus explaining why it should not be used for games or playing, etc. The broom should not be used for cleansing household gods or the altar as it is disrespectful. These objects are cleaned with a cloth or a small special brush. We discussed this earlier during the Spring Festival. Chinese customs prohibit the use of brooms for 3 days from the Chinese New Year, and it's thought that it will sweep away the good luck that the new year brings. Beating a person with a broom is said to rain bad luck upon that person for years. And the curse can, however, be lifted by rubbing the parts of a body that were hit several times. The broom should never touch your head, as this is very bad luck. And in gambling, the spirit of the broom is sometimes invoked by threatening it until luck in gambling ensues. So the broom is sometimes used also in temple rituals. Here, the person's whole body is swept with the broom in front of the deities and the broom then beaten. So this functions to remove bad luck. From Chemung County Historical Society.com, it does say here similar brooms have shown up around the world as a cleansing tool in parts of Asia, of course. We do recognize that Tomb Sweeping Day in early April, and this is a 2,500-year-old holiday that does involve a ritual cleansing as a sign of ancestral respect. But another sweeping tradition does come from Africa, where various cultures continue to sweep fenced in areas in front of their homes as a proud sign of ownership. They believe that having a well swept yard invites goodwill and neighbors to visit. And they, in turn, brought this tradition with them to the United States as they were enslaved. They continued with this practice. It was a tradition that easily fit into the warmer southern parts of the US. And sweeping did create an inviting space outdoors for people. And practically, a swept yard just took the weeds out, eliminated the impracticality of a lawn, which they didn't used to have back in the day. Patterns were left in the dirt by sweeping, and they looked cool, but were also helpful in seeing if any pests or snakes had, made their way towards the home. So it's kind of a way to identify that. And bringing that tradition into the Southern folk magic, one of them shows in the use of a cinnamon broom. If you notice, there is cinnamon brooms that come out around the fall. I know every time I walk into a grocery store, I smell cinnamon pine cones or I see cinnamon brooms. So every year I'll usually pick up a new cinnamon broom and I'll hang it on my door. It is supposed to be a protective charm. And it is said that if a spirit comes by your door, that it'll actually stop to count the bristles. And some people believe you're supposed to put the broom upside down and prop it up against your door. I just hang the little broom on the door, no big deal. And the cinnamon is supposed to be cleansing and also promote prosperity, but it is supposed to be a protective energy also. Other ways to use these brooms as a space clearing tool is to use them seasonally during transitions. It is kind of crucial to help release the stagnant energy, refresh the environment, and really to set a positive new intention for the season ahead. One thing you can do is to sweep out, as we talked about. That's a big thing that's mentioned in all these articles, clearing negative energy by accumulating dirt and sweeping it out of your door. Of course, I just mentioned the cinnamon broom, laying a broom across an area for protection. That might be more along the lines if you think you sense a spirit or something negative in your home, maybe you'd want to do that. Really, it doesn't just have to be a broom. Nowadays, we have tools. I think the most comical representation of this is in the movie Hocus Pocus when the three witches' brooms get stolen. And so they go to like the utility closet, and one of the sisters has to ride a vacuum. So vacuums can be used too. You can definitely do some vacuuming, sweeping, and just think of it as a clearing away. There is spices you can use when you sweep that are supposed to help cleanse. As I mentioned earlier, salt, of course, is supposed to be a very big cleanser of negative energies. There is certain spices that you're supposed to use to help promote this clearing. Cinnamon is a big one, just like we mentioned with the cinnamon brooms. I've also heard you can blow cinnamon into your door. Some people like to do it at the beginning of each month because cinnamon is supposed to promote abundance and prosperity. Some people use it for business success, but it is said to give you personal confidence also. Allspice is another good spice you can use, and it's supposed to be good for stimulating conversation. This article here says I like to vacuum with cinnamon and allspice sprinkled on the carpets before guests come over to encourage a warm, friendly atmosphere. Pine needles. So this is supposed to be good for uncrossing and refreshing a home. So this is not a kitchen spice, obviously, of course, but still easily accessible. So do be careful. Don't vacuum up these pine needles because it can definitely mess things up because they do get gummy. And instead of pine needles, you can use pine sol. Anything pine scented is supposed to be good for that refreshing energy. Rosemary is supposed to be pretty good, so good for domestic bliss, as well as helping those who smell it focus on thinking clearly. Oregano might be pretty good. It keeps meddlesome influences from interfering in your life, and it makes a nice law keep away substitute and discourages nosy neighbors. So I guess if you're doing something illegal, put the oregano out. Garlic skins is supposed to be something that kills off evil. Rose petals encourage love and passion when crumpled across a home and left for a bit before sweeping and vacuuming. Use rose essential oils and sprinkle that around when you clean. We talked about salt, which is good for clearing hexes or removing unwanted spiritual energy from your home. This article does say that they use baking soda sprinkled on the carpets to vacuum and absorb pesky curses, and baking soda is a type of salt. There's a method of preventing unwanted guests from returning, which involves sweeping salt after they leave the house. It says here's sugar, but I'm not sure if I'd put sugar on the ground. And it says a little bit will add sweetness to your home, though make sure you don't get it all over or use too much. A little sweetness is great, but a lot of ants are not. We talked about the pine sol as a alternative wash for the pine needles, but it does say here that the commercial floor cleaner basically evolved out of hoodoo floor washes. Adding a little Van to a bottle of pine sol is a simple substitute for a Chinese wash. I had to look it up, and Van is actually a blend of oils from lemongrass, citronella, vetiver, and gingergrass. I don't know if too many of those are handy, but I know I grow like lemongrass and citronella in my garden. And I do like to actually put that in like water, and I'll spray my plants with it as a natural kind of pest repellent. So maybe I should use that inside my home. So I guess you could take garden herbs also and make a little bit of a tincture or oil or something out of those if you know how to do that. Lemon pine sol is supposed to be good. So lemon scented cleanser. So lemons have a cut and clear effect on a space and have long been associated with destroying curses and breaking hexes. And I know that when I was attending like this kind of alternative church in my area, one of the things that I used to do all the time, I would do it on a weekly basis, is a lemon ceremony. And I would basically do like a prayer 9 times. I would cut a lemon and I would salt the lemon 9 times. And it was supposed to remove curses. And I do think it worked. So maybe I need to start doing that again. I kind of fell away from doing that. Lemon does, of course, leave a really nice smell, and fresh squeezed lemons can also work. Ammonia is supposed to be another floor wash. You can add salt to that ammonia, and it's supposed to be good for cleansing and protecting. So it can neutralize almost anything thrown at you, magically speaking. Plus, it really does disinfect nicely, and it doesn't smell great when you're using it. But to me, ammonia is the thing that will cut odors out of everything. So ammonia works well, not to just clean, but to also spiritually cleanse your home. So, vinegar, Four Thieves vinegar is supposed to be a counter curse wash and a protective mix in for mop water. But really, any vinegar helps get rid of unwanted energies and protect the home from invaders and malicious forces. If the scent is strong, it may protect you from visitors altogether. And the last one we're not going to want to do, but just in case, urine. So it's very traditional in hoodoo, it says, although much frowned upon in modern use. It has, however, been a long used as a cleaning agent, and a little urine diluted in some mop water is supposed to be powerful to quote unquote mark your territory and protect the home. It can also instill a sense of good luck in the place and ensure fidelity in your mate and passion from your lover if they don't catch you doing it, of course. Um, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I don't want to um, dismiss any traditions. Also, I'd rather use maybe like ammonia or pine sol. And so, again, if you don't want to do the sweeping, you can definitely do this as a very easy way to clear your home and cleanse it just using your mop water. So, I think that's a very, very easy way. So, even just the act of sweeping and mopping, of course, is supposed to clear, but putting a little bit of intention in it by putting some of those oils or some of those scents or those herbs into your mop water can definitely act as a little bit of a boost to help clear that energy. All right, guys, I do want to include a short Folklore Friday segment, and this one will kick off our spooky season. I love all things Halloween. We're going to kick that off. A little article called How Did Brooms Become Associated with Witches? From whoopandhammy.com. It's actually kind of a neat little website here. It says, Broom or best symbolism and meaning. How did brooms become associated with witches? Around Halloween, we often see silly pictures of witches flying on broomsticks, and the drawings are so familiar that we don't even question them anymore. But if you had to stop and think about it, they are a rather strange image. Where did the idea of magical, mischievous flying women come from? There is a rather interesting theory to their origins. But first, a little history. When a clergyman confessed to making a pact with the devil and flying to the Sabbath on a broomstick, the idea of a flying ointment, a cream or salve that witches used to fly, also dates back around this time. Centuries ago, women didn't have choices they have today and were generally considered second class citizens. Rarely did they have a job outside the home, and when they did, they had to hold several jobs just to make the same amount of money as a man. For many women, their main duties consisted of taking care of the children, looking after the home, working in the yard, taking care of the animals, and doing housework and cooking. Women were expected to tend to their husbands' needs at all times. Keeping the home clean was a constant chore, but also necessary because dirt would attract rodents, which would sometimes bring deadly diseases. As you might imagine, life must have felt rather tedious and oppressive. It was thought that the drudgery of everyday life for women, along with two everyday household items, broomsticks and bread, came together in a rather unexpected way to create the idea of flying witches. In the Middle Ages, bread was often made out of rye, which would sometimes become infected with a fungus called ergot. If it was eaten in large quantities, it could cause death, but in smaller quantities, it could produce hallucinations. Naturally, when humans come across something that adds a little excitement to their lives, they want to know more about it. And people experimented with not just ergot, but with other plants that had hallucinogenic effects also. The problem with these plants is that eating them would cause an unpleasant side effect like nausea, vomiting, or skin problems. But they found that when they made an ointment of the plants and applied it to their skin, they could have the same hallucinogenic effects without other problems. They also discovered that the places where ointments seemed to be most easily absorbed were the armpits and the thin mucous membranes of the genitals. Since women very likely had broomsticks in their house, it makes sense that it would have made an easy and convenient tool for application of these ointments. They would apply the ointment to the end of the broomstick and use it to apply it to their genitals. And it does say here it's not recommended that you try this at home, which I agree to. A 15th century manuscript theologian writes how the witches confess that they anoint the staff and write on it to appointed places or anoint themselves under the arms and other hairy places. So, what about flying? It was thought that after applying the ointment, the women would straddle the broomstick and jump and dance around the open fields, giving them the sensation of flying as the drugs took effect. Clergymen at the time debated as to whether the ointments actually allowed the witches to physically fly or if it was a delusion created by the devil or they're just hallucinating. um, it was a sort of out of body experience where the souls of the witches left the bodies and flew to the Sabbath. It's not likely that the witches really went anywhere, and the drugs probably just caused an altered state of consciousness or transcendental experience where they believed they were somewhere else. And some herbs used at the time, like deadly nightshade, wolfsbane, or henbane, are known to produce sensations of flying. It is important to note that much of our knowledge today from the era of witch hunts is biased and unreliable, mostly because it was written by inquisitors of the church or clergymen or taken from alleged witches who were tortured until they came up with a confession that satisfied their tormentors. It's more likely that these women just enjoy getting high to escape the monotony of their daily lives. Of course, I'll include the link to this article in the show notes. Some of the other information I did cover here, using it as a fertility symbol and whatnot, but I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit that made for a fun little Folklore Friday segment. All right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this episode uncovering some powerful symbolism of brooms across the cultures, from the ancestral respect of Asia to the protective rituals of Southern folk magic. So, whether used to cleanse, protect, or invite positive energy, brooms do remain a timeless tool for creating sacred spaces. So, thanks for joining me today. I'm excited. Again, we won't have an episode next week, but the 27th I'll be back and I'll be doing a short synopsis of the book Move Your Stuff, Change Your Life by Karen Rosh Carter. So, it should be interesting. I'm excited to do this feng shui book series and really go through some of the books in my library that I haven't completely read through yet. So that'll be fun to present that to you guys. All right. Well, if you need a energy mapping of your space, or I do offer that little free just one room assessment, you can definitely find that linked below. All social media is linked below, and you can find me at learnfengshui.com. I'll catch you guys next time.
For a free energy mapping of your floor plan, please check the link in the show notes. To support today's podcast, go to learnfengshui.com, sign up for emails, leave a review, and share with your family and friends.